So I'm going to tell you about a little challenge I have in my kitchen. So I've been renovating this kitchen for some time. I've put all of this in over time. Recently I just made up these bench tops. So this is a hardwood or ash, which is a hardwood ash laminate. Roughly the right size. So all I've had to do with this is basically cut it to length, put a nice edge on it, and finish it off and make it all fit. And likewise for the shelves and for this section over here. Challenge now is that I have to make the same for here. Now this is a somewhat larger piece of timber at 1.2 meters wide, a little short of 3.2 long. So these pieces of timber come in 2.4 by 600. So way too short and nowhere near wide enough. So plan is those three pieces of timber there are going to be cut and joined and put together to create that surface. Got to drill some holes through this metal tubing, so that'll happen pretty quickly and we'll move on from there. I've done my 4 cuts, 4 pieces of timber that I'll need for the edging. So the next phase of this big bench top is to actually join 2 pieces together. So I found 2 pieces that are as closely color matched as possible. I'm going to join them across there. First of all, what I want to do is I want to run a cut exactly on that line, centered on that line, so that both pieces are being cut simultaneously, and that'll make sure that they come together nice and tight. In theory, those cuts should be identical. The next phase is to fit these bench top joiners in. Yeah, perfectly below the level. Those are cut and ready, and that'll pull timbers together, so the thing will go in, fits nicely, it'll all pull together. So now I'll flip it over and get the biscuit joiner out, do the biscuit joints. I've marked where the biscuits are going to go, obviously avoiding these slots, so I don't want a biscuit where that is for the underneath piece. So I'll leave a biscuit there, 5 biscuits each side. I'll just start cutting some slots first. Slot for these little fellas. So that goes in there with some glue, and we'll align with that one, and that really keeps this in line. It doesn't really help with this because it's got a bit of free play that way, so that way you have to align it yourself, but it makes sure that you've got nice level. So that's all biscuited together, glued, in position. All I'm going to do is now tighten these things up. So that's all tightened up now. Already feels pretty firm. I've got to make another one the same. It goes the opposite way around and then connects onto the side of this to make it nice and wide. Set it up now to basically join the 4 slabs. So that's the one we worked on earlier. We joined that together. Now we kind of repeat it. Put these onto that because it's got to be this wide. So what I would do is run a strip now where the joint's going to be, to make sure that the opposing edges are nice and flush and even, and then join this piece on, and then that piece. I think is the way I should do it. I'm not sure. Figure it out. Might let you all watch this long cut, see how it goes. I might bugger it up. You can have a laugh at me if I do. Okay, I thought I'd give you a layout of how the end game looks for the joinery here. So you saw me do those over there. It's the same principle. All of these are going to be putting those 2 pieces across. So there's, I've never got there 9. These metal tubes that I've shaped and cut and drilled will be recessed by 20 mil. So it'll be routed. You've seen me do the routing already. same old story, I won't show you that. They'll be routed in, screwed, and then epoxied. So what that'll do is give that under stability, because I'm not that confident of these joints not doing that or that. So this will give it that stability, and then that will be the final board. There's all the holes and biscuit slots and everything done into the three pieces to join them together. So as you can see, that'll come together. There's two biscuits in there as well. That biscuit will stick out, but we'll trim off later and it'll be covered. Those will all pull together, all the slots all the way through. The joiners. So I thought I'd just show you that before I actually put it together. It's been left to dry overnight. It's all pretty rock solid, all dry, but it still needs some support to make sure that the lateral movement doesn't crack the joints. So what I've done is I marked out where these will be inserted, and then I'm just using two of them as a guide to give me 20 mil wide gap, and I'll go 20 mil deep so that that fits into it. Screw it down, epoxy it in, it should be good. These all routed in nice, pretty much flush. What I'll do now is I'll mix up some of this epoxy. It's a very easy epoxy, 50-50, it's great stuff. And I'll basically fill around those and screw them down so that it's nice and firm. So the epoxy is dried overnight, so that's all nice and hard. These things are all nice and flush and solid in. What I've got to do now is square it all up, make sure it's the right length, cut both ends nice and flush. I've got to route the edges, make nice edges so that when you're putting your hands in for drawers and things, you're not hitting squares, you're hitting sort of nice rounded edge, not hurting yourself, make it comfortable. And then flip it over and do the top, which is the piece that really needs to be finished well. The sanding here is not that critical. Just get it basically smooth and seal it up so that it's sealed, because obviously timber takes on moisture and dries, and as it does so it expands and contracts. So if you seal the top all nice, but you don't worry about the bottom, it'll warp. Of course, what will happen is the bottom will dry, the top won't, the bottom will get wet, the top won't, because it's not sealed, and so it'll keep doing this, and that'll just damage it over time. Even all this support, with it wetting and drying, it'll eventually give. So I'm going to make sure that that doesn't happen. I'm very happy with it. It's all now squared up. It's nice and square. Cut to the correct length for the room, for the bench. It's going to have edging on it, like this, all the way around, clean up the edges. So obviously the thing that I have to do now is cut these angles, join these on, line them all up all the way around, ensuring that they're flush on the top side, which is underneath. Can't turn this over yet, too heavy. But anyway, I can do that, get them all into place, and then I can sand this bottom and seal it. Put all these edges on. It looks a bit rough and ready, but obviously it's all got to be sanded and whatever to make it look nice. But all the way around, so all four sides. Creating a nice finish, obviously closing up the end grain will look much nicer on the exposed piece, which is that piece, that in there being against the wall, so you won't see it. But now we give it a sand underneath. I do have to route this out because it's the bottom, so I want to round that off, so I'll do a route on that just to make it tidy, and then a sealer, a coat of urethane, water-based urethane, which is very hardy, will seal it, will stop it from warping. All this rounds on. I'm now just going to route out the rounded bit. Keep in mind I'm still working on the bottom edge. Route out this round edge here. That round edge, pretty neat. It'll need a sand and whatever just to finish it off, but you can see what happens. Making good progress. Now that's all done, all the way around the edge. 80 grit sandpaper, it's pretty rough. Doesn't matter underneath, it just needs to be roughly level. It'll seal, that's all that I'm really looking for here. I'm not looking for a beautiful finish. we'll worry about that on top. So I'll give it a sand with that belt sander. Okay, so there we have it. Quick sand, nothing spectacular. High grit, doesn't matter because this doesn't have to be a perfect finish, it's just to get it basically smooth so that it's ready for a coat of sealant. The edges have been rounded. That I've spent a little bit more time sanding them sort of nice and smooth because that's kind of going to have to be finished well, like the top is visible and contact area, so that'll be nice. Spend a bit more time on that. The rest is pretty rough, but it looks pretty decent. To put a coating on, and use some of this Cabot's urethane, polyurethane coating, very strong, very hard, impact resistant, waterproof, blah blah blah. So suitable for benchtops. Just going to roll it on now. Give it a stir. Pop it on. So I'm not going to show you me rollering, it's pretty simple. Like this. First coat is on, it's had a little while to dry, so what I can do now is I can just lightly go over it with a random little sander. What that'll do is just take out the feathering. Obviously this stuff soaks in to the grain and seals it, as well as solidifying it, I guess, but it does tend to expand the soft grain versus the hard grain slightly. So kind of quick go over with that to get it nice and level, get all the feathering out, and then another coat. That'll be the bottom done. I've even done the cutout for the cooktop, which was very scary. I measured this 15 times, I'm sure 15 times. Read it until I was confident that it's in the right place, and then had a couple of heart-stopping moments of, oh, it's on the wrong side, it's at the wrong end, working upside down and back to front, blah blah blah. Anyway, I think it's right. So this is the top now. Given it a sand now, the whole surface, so it's all pretty even. It's come up pretty well, I think. Pretty much done in terms of, you know, getting it all evened up and fixed up and whatever. You know, I've epoxied things like, you know, in there, all these little knots and defects in the timber, which are what gives it character. But obviously they're not perfectly smooth in the natural state, and there's all holes and whatever through. So now epoxy filling them with very clear epoxy is going to leave them visible. So when the final coat comes on, that will be clear, and you'll actually see the hole and the imperfections in the timber, or perfections if you like. Things like that will all show up beautifully, and give it the character that you want, but be completely sealed and smooth on top. Now what I've got to do is around here where the cooktop is going to go in, so I've got to now mark out exactly where the cooktop comes to. So the cooktop will come to like somewhere here. It's got an overlap, it's got a slight overlap on this edge and quite a large overlap on this edge, and then there's a stainless steel insert to go each side. So I've got to mark those out, and then I've got to recess them so it's all flush on the surface, so you don't have edges and things for muck to get under and whatever. So that's the plan. So I'm happy to report that I have managed to get all the recesses in, with about a 1 mil tolerance all the way around. So urethane coating, and then it's done. It takes about 4 or 5 coats to get it to the glossy finish you want. After a few coats of urethane, this is how it comes up. Pretty decent already. I'll just scan over it quickly, make sure there's no further defects to fill in, and then probably do the final couple of spray coats with a light sand in between each, with maybe a 120 grit or a 180 grit, and then final coat. Should be good. It'll be time to move it to the kitchen and actually put it in place. You may recall this is how it looked at the beginning of this video, and this is how it looks now. So I'm pretty happy with that.